The minutes on the table are...
Okay, everybody,
more
welcome to
recent.
the Goffstown Planning Board meeting. This is our regular meeting for the second Thursday of the month. As usual, we begin with our introductions, and I'll start with Joanne.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Collis Adams, Select Board Representative.
Philip Devanza.
Gail Brett, alternate and recording secretary.
Tim Redmond.
Scott Ozana, Town Engineer.
Barbara Griffin.
David Pierce, an alternate.
David and Gail will both be voting tonight because we're a few members short. Okay, first item on our agenda is the approval and correction of the February 23rd meetings, 2023. We have another set on our table tonight, Joanne, for a reason?
Yeah, they're the same thing.
They're the same thing.
I think I put the packets together, and I think Patty didn't realize I had
Okay.
included them.
All right, so,
The red distributed once, I'll make a motion to approve these
I'll second.
motion to approve, is that as accepted?
as
As printed?
As
Presented.
presented, I mean? Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of saying, of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstention, motion passes. Joanne, we have two requests for continuations to begin with. I'd like to begin with them first.
Yes, the first one is the court remand for the laundromat, which is map 18, lots 16A and 17. They requested to be continued to March 23rd.
Okay, do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
So it's a motion to continue to when date?
March 23rd. And abutters will not be re-notified.
And that was made by Phil and Barbara. Any discussion on the motion? Barbara?
I'd just like to say, because I know that we have abutters here and this is a high-interest issue, that this is the first time we have a remand from the Housing Appeals Board.
This is from the court.
Oh, this is from the court,
Yeah.
excuse me, they're coming back from both places. One of the parties has an attorney who can't be here. Given the fact that this is a new sort of course that we're taking, I would like to make sure we have all the players here before we talk about it. And, I mean, I hope abutters, to the extent that they called in, were able to be told that there was a continuance requested, because I noticed that came in a couple of days, last week,
Yeah.
actually.
And it's been listed on the agenda that was posted.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, chair votes yes. Motion is made. This application will be continued to March 23rd. All right. Joanne, did you have a second application that had a request for a continuance?
Yes, I received a late request this afternoon from Joe Wickert, the engineer, for the
Which map and lot?
conceptual, and that would be for map 33, lots 17 and 17-1.
Could you
And,
briefly describe to the board what this, in 3 sentences,
That-
what is this about?
This is not an actual hearing, this is a conceptual for a proposal to remove a condition that was placed on this application when it was approved as a lot line adjustment, which was to have, there's 3 lots altogether, one of the lots is only allowed to construct a single-family home, and the new owner of the property would like to construct a duplex, so he has reconfigured the layout, not the layout of the lots, but the layout of the building to bring it closer to the road and to have the driveway pulled further away.
Right. So
From
just
the
as long as
wetland.
everybody knows, this is for the 3 lots on New Boston Road.
Yes.
Okay.
So the engineer is not feeling well tonight, so he'd like to do it on the 23rd.
Okay, so we have a request to change to what date? To the same date, March 23rd?
23rd.
So moved.
Second.
You could say we're too busy that day, no. Give them some other-
Is that,
Well, we have one other. We only have one other, and then
It's just
they just
Eversource,
continued
yeah.
one, so
then
there's
it's
two.
only a, it's a,
The
can,
Hemley Investments is
Oh,
that?
I'm sorry,
is
there's
it-
2,
Yeah.
and then one other that they
but
just
Hemley
continued.
Investments is only in for
Yeah,
the
the driveway.
driveway discussion on going over the sewer line. That's the only thing we're going to discuss with Hemley Investments that night.
But we tend to spend a lot of time on conceptuals. so-
But I'm just saying, that should be a very short presentation because it's going to depend on the rest of the design for the thing.
Sorry, by the way, I'm sorry to be late, but I just got
That's
back
no
from,
problem.
wasn't planning to be here.
Fashionably late.
Except they had to see what Phil was wearing.
Okay, we have a motion to continue map 33, lot 17 and 17-1 to 323. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes yes, motion passes. Okay, we have one other item on our correspondence action items. It's a request to accept a letter of credit for Phase 2 of the Glen Place condos, map 5, lot 60. Joanne, please.
Yes, so the owner of the property, Christine Lamontagne, is here tonight, and she'd just like to talk to you about this for a few minutes. They have handed in their plans, which I'll explain to you in a second, but they've also handed in the revised wording of the letter of credit. Now, the letter of credit includes the funding for the fence, because that's how, when it was first figured out as to how much they would need, the fence was included. At the moment, they need to finalize this so that they can go ahead and have some closings happen on Phase 2. And so what they'd like to do currently is to provide you with the approved landscaping plan, which is the first sheet on the top of that packet that was handed out. The second sheet shows there's red along some of those trees. They're relocating a few of those trees because Scott had some concerns about the site distance. And then the next 2 or 3 pages is all of the information regarding the site distance. So at the moment, they do not plan on constructing the fence. That will be probably at a later date, but the money is in there for the letter of credit. But they really want to just get approval this evening for the letter of credit so that they are able to close on a few of these units that are just about ready to go. But
So the fence is not shown on the new landscape, on the landscape plan received.
no, because the fence was not part of the original approval. So
Well, my question is, why are we including a fence on the surety if it's not on the plan?
because it was initially in the surety that everyone had looked at and all of the staff had looked at and approved. And so rather than take it out, there probably will be a fence at some point. So why not just put it in for the amount now?
Doesn't hurt.
Except,
Doesn't hurt.
but it also doesn't, the problem I'm having is the problem we had with the fence the first time. We had to get the fence and the plantings relocated so the fence would be behind the plantings. Are we going to get insurance from the applicant tonight that this fence will be installed behind the existing plantings? We are not going to have another big meeting over the fence and the plantings again.
Right, that's why she's here to talk to you
Good,
about it.
But
Jim, what's your question?
No, all we're doing, just a minute, all we're doing tonight, one of the things we're doing is accepting the letter of credit.
Right.
We're not modifying the plan yet.
No, but Joanne's telling us that it's going to come back and they're going to put the fence,
that's
maybe
right,
put the
that's
fence up
right.
later.
And when they come back for that, then we would discuss that. But why are we discussing the fence location tonight when it's not on the plan? They're not.
Because we're accepting money to put a fence
Well,
up.
but it doesn't hurt us to have extra collateral. In fact, it's probably a good way to get some extra money on the table, but it's not compelling them, as I understand, to put in a fence. It's just if they do, it will cover the costs.
Okay.
So,
David?
Mr. Chair, we could put a condition on acceptance of saying that it does not allow the start of a fence project. After all, they're bearing the expense of providing more money than they need.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Could you identify yourself for the record, please, both of you?
Christine Lamontagne.
Thank you.
Bob Lamontagne. Thank you.
Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so Joanne kind of explained our thought process behind this. I know that the fence location is something that is going to be discussed, and there's going to be, some opinions. And so we thought, after speaking with staff, that it would make the most sense to separate the topics. So come to you guys for approval for the letter of credit to finish out the site work as approved, including the couple of edits that Scott had suggested when he did the overlay of the approved landscaping plan with the approved site distance plan, just to make everything safe. We all agree we would like that to be a safe place for everybody. So that's why we wanted to show those edits. Again, the reason we left the fence amount in was so that our intention is to put a fence in, but we'd like to come back and make sure we're all in agreement about it beforehand, before we move forward with it. So we just didn't want to have to come back and then do a second letter of credit with it. We obviously, we're not going to put the fence in without having come to an agreement here. But we're trying not to reinvent the wheel too many times. And like she mentioned, our intention was to come before the board sometime in January. That didn't happen. We ended up on the February 9th agenda when that meeting didn't happen, and we ended up the end of February. So now we're coming against closings. We've got residents who are going to need to move in. So to expedite that process for them, that's why we thought it was the best course of action to separate them. So.
Thank you. Questions for the applicants and board members?
I have a question for Scott.
Go ahead.
On your memo to us stated the 13th, back in February. So if I go through, and I've just been checking off the amounts on the total 108 to the backup that was provided. The first 3 bullets on your memo relate to phase 2. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the last bullet is what we just, is the
It's the phase
sight
one.
line turf adjustment that we.
It's not the, no, it's that's phase 1.
Right.
So they included some, yeah, it's the last line item on their bond worksheet.
Right,
So they had some lawn that didn't quite come in last year,
okay,
and they're going to touch that up.
okay. All right, I just misunderstood the sightline issue to be it's in phase 2, the sightline issue, which
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah.
I was thinking
No.
of
No,
phase 1. Okay,
the sightlines are all set with phase 1. They
Okay.
They
Yeah,
worked
well, that's
that
what I
out while they
thought.
were putting the plantings.
because I was one of the people who bothered the fence person.
Jim?
Joanne can, Scott can confirm this, but it appears that they changed the format of the text of the letter of credit to address the concerns I raised earlier. It's called a self-calling. so
Yes, they have.
It's what we require under our regs. So it's okay with me.
So Joanne, before we vote on this, do we need to have a vote to accept the amended landscape plan? Because it's not the landscape plan that was in the original.
This is typically done as a field change, so Scott can sign off that this is okay, because it was done more for safety reasons, not so much for the aesthetics of the landscaping, and that's typically done during the process of an application going
So
through
just for the record, then, we'll have to have this
construction.
revised landscape plan in the plan set for the final plan set that gets put, that gets filed.
Right, when we get the as-built, that would be
Why don't I
included.
create a record, why don't we, I move that we find this is a non-material change that can be dealt with on staff level, and we agree or affirm whatever changes Scott has approved.
I'll second that.
It was a request by me to have those couple of plants moved, so, or a suggestion, maybe not a request.
It was a request.
You can be assertive. In fact, it can be more than request.
Yeah.
That's all right, we want it safe anyway.
So there's a motion to, is it a motion, Jim, that you're making?
Yeah, a motion to find it's a non-material change.
For a non-material, consider a non-material change to the original plan set for landscaping changes to phase 2, and it is for safety reasons.
I second it.
Yeah, I got you down there. Okay, all those, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. All right, so the approval of the tracking form is what we're at right now. Any other questions from board members for the applicant? Okay, well, we'll look for a motion.
Just to approve, I move that we approve the letter of credit and for the purposes that Scott's laid out in his report.
Second.
Who seconded, Barbara?
I did.
Okay, any discussion on Jim's motion? All those in favor to accept the letter of credit for the Phase 2 landscaping and top coating? Opposed? Nobody? Letter, motion passes. Thank you both.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, sir.
Since your other two hearings are canceled and we're all here, could we discuss the fence?
Well, it's not a noticed item that we
Do it
have
as
to
an
worry
urgent.
about public
No, you
input?
can do it on a conceptual basis.
Okay, go ahead, let's go ahead, we'll go with it then.
Yeah, so our intention, I'll start off. We didn't propose this subdivision, we didn't bring it for approval, we purchased an already approved subdivision. So our philosophy with this is to make this the best neighborhood we can. And with Phase 1, we had the idea that, it was a really extensive planting schedule that you guys had, but there's nothing that screens better than a fence. And so that's why we would like to move forward with said fence. In doing so, I'd really love to see, I know some of the feedback for the Phase 1 fence was that all recommended or all proposed plantings be on the street side of the fence, the concern being they didn't want a white wall, which I agree with. I don't think anybody wants the white wall, whether it be residents of Goffstown on the street side or the residents of Goffstown on the home side. So what I'm hoping we could agree on or proposing is having the landscape architect, which she's currently working on this, is incorporating the fence within the plantings where we can hopefully eliminate the pine trees. The spirit and use of the pine trees is to create screening, which there's no better screen than the privacy fence. So that's the physical screen. And by removing those pines, allow us to incorporate the fence where there's, we can replace the count of the pine trees with other plantings that will dress up the fence on both sides. So we're wondering if the board would be amenable to that as opposed to having all the plantings on just one side.
Well, is the requirement for us to have so many trees, Joanne, and so many plantings? So
Right.
trees are trees. So if you want to eliminate pine trees, you're going to have to replace them with trees
And that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
of different kinds.
Yeah, our goal is, again, to create the best situation for the residents. And in doing so, I think the fence provides a better screen than the pine trees do. And then if we can edit the species of the trees and place them on both sides, we can dress up the fence on both sides and then also make sure we're speccing the species in a way that we're not overcrowding for the sake of getting a plant number, so that in a few years they've got inhibited growth and just a lot of maintenance to take care of, so that a way we can keep it looking nice all year long. Because again, our goal is to, he's from this town, we want to drive through and be proud of it, so.
And the other subject we discussed was the fact that on Phase 2, the buildings are actually closer to the road than Phase 1, which eliminates the houses that are, the backs are facing Mast Road, have less, backyard.
There's no room.
There's really nothing, so
Well,
it's,
then there's just more of a slope.
yeah, and so in order to give them at least a little bit of yard there, they want to try to work with that to possibly, have their designer take that into consideration so that the people, don't have anything but like right up a fence right up against their windows, which would be not so nice.
Jim?
But the purpose of our tree requirement is not just screening, it's also, visual appearance as you go down the road.
Agreed.
You don't have, even though there are a lot of businesses along that stretch that aren't screened, we know that.
There's a lot.
Yeah, but we're doing what we can, and part of it's remediation from past sins. But we want to have a treed look to the extent. So it's not just a visual screening of the project; it's appearance of the road.
Yeah, and then now again, we'd like to dress it up and doll it up and make it look great. We were just asking about the switching of the pine trees, because the pine trees are a larger tree that's been, and the purpose of that tree was the visual screen. So if we can then change that species out for something that then decorates the fence, I think that that achieves the spirit of what you guys are looking to do, right? Screen from the road and have it be aesthetically pleasing. I think the spirit of the design was.
I'm thinking we also want to screen the fence to some degree and take out the white wall that you're talking about. So whatever you
Right.
decide to bring forward, you're going to have to bring a plan back here for us to look at and ultimately approve the plantings as well as the fence location within the plantings.
Yeah, and she's working on that, just, there's a lot of ways we can do this, so it'd be nice,
Yep.
it was nice to have this conversation that, I guess our main takeaway would be, are you okay with keeping the same planting count and splitting that count on both sides to decorate the white wall on both sides, as opposed to just on the one side?
Well, the most vocal speaker is not here tonight, the vice chair. She was the one that was the most vocal speaker on this subject at the meeting when we talked about the fence way back. So I would want to get her opinion as well. So I don't know what to tell you about moving forward with your design after this meeting. We may want to have another discussion at a subsequent meeting when she is here, and then we can relay the information to you via the planning department. Because if we're going to accept your bond, including the fence, which it looks like we are,
You
okay?
did.
You did.
You did.
The location of the fence within the trees, it doesn't have to be decided next week.
No, it doesn't, we're just, to save everybody time and,
Another meeting.
and all of that, just, if we can get some feedback, that'd be great.
Is it something we should ask them to, and Kimberly's going to be here particularly, they come in, again, on a conceptual basis with a
Yeah.
plan, is that your...
You'd like to come in on a conceptual basis?
If you still are questioning before you do a final plan, that would be...
I mean, it's not gonna take, it's not like this is like a major undertaking. She's gonna take the landscaping plan, adjust some stuff and put a fence on it, so I'm not so worried. I'd rather, if we're gonna come and we're gonna get on the agenda, my hope would be that we propose something that everybody can agree to, because I think we all are working towards the same goal of beautifying the,
We could schedule, at the next meeting, we could schedule something on the action items that wouldn't require you to be here.
Right.
We could discuss it amongst ourselves
okay.
and relay the information to you.
We just assume be here.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And it's nice to hear the feedback firsthand, as opposed to Joanne having to play telephone
Don't want to do
game.
that. We'll try
You can always go back and watch the
Yeah.
video.
And
It's
then-
very exciting.
I will not watch
Been there,
myself
Jim.
on camera, I can tell you
If you'd
that.
like to be here, we're happy to have you.
Now, that's the first I've heard of the number of shrubs, but is that based on square footage, or? Because it appears like this has got way more shrubs than,
It's in our development regulations for
on
screening,
square- based on
so
square
many of every different size.
I can send it to you.
okay.
Yeah, how you get to the calculation, yeah, that'd be nice.
Because a lot
It's
of
in the
times,
it's in our landscaping standards.
a lot of times these landscape designers just fill it to make themselves look good. And
At
we're
your-
all talking about.
At your expense.
Yeah, and we're all talking about the number of trees, and maybe there's way more than there's supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't think
We'll
so.
let you determine that. Barbara?
I just want to say that I have no issue with replacing the pine trees. I look somewhat sadly on the ones that are on Phase 1 as I drive by, wondering how they're surviving the winter and the road maintenance. I do have concerns. I hope you have a very creative landscaper, because with that slope and putting a fence on to give them a yard, you've got very challenging terrain to be planting anything, it looks to me like, on the road side of the fence, which I'm sure you can deal with. So I am okay with moving stuff. My recollection is that Kimberly didn't mind it broken up, that she wanted such, that her concern was having it on the outside so that it wasn't all one white wall. But I'm okay with a substitution of trees and moving things around the fence. So I can't anticipate that would change, just so you have a feel for what's
We don't
going
want
on.
a blank white
Right,
wall on
no,
either
I don't
side.
think you do either.
We don't, for
Okay.
anybody.
I think we're going to be looking for some coniferous stuff as well as deciduous mixed in there, not just all leaf-dropping trees.
Oh, agree, yeah, it should look
Okay.
nice all year long, because it's
Okay.
New England, I agree. Yep.
All right. Anything else for us, sir? Ma'am?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we have an old business application, map 23, lot 13 and 11. This was continued from February 23rd. Joanne, could you give us a very brief rundown?
Yes, so at the last meeting, the applicant was asked to address staff's comments and to update the drainage as well as update some of the dates on the plan and provide a buildable area table. He's produced all of that. The plans have been reviewed and we are recommending approval with conditions.
Does the board have any questions for Joanne at this time? No board members have a question? All right, I'm just looking through my package here for a second. Give me a second.
Are we dealing with,
Huh?
are we dealing with this one?
Oh, I'm looking in the wrong file, sorry.
They requested a continuance, and the attorney
Shouldn't even look at this folder.
continuance.
And this is-
So, no, the continuance were here, this is,
Which one are we on now?
yes, this
Chatel
Shadow
Avenue,
This
map
is Shadow.
23, lot
It
11
is,
and 23.
yeah.
But I thought Andy Sullivan,
They requested a continuance.
Andy Sullivan's not going to be here tonight to represent these guys.
They already did that one.
Joanne, Andy Sullivan was at the meeting the last time we had.
This was for both of those.
Oh, you mean Andy was with this one?
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
with
that's
this
why,
applicant.
that's why.
yeah,
it's-
sorry, I'm confused. But I got here late, so. But the bagels are good in New York.
And what was, Joanne, could you just briefly review what you said, because I was writing down, I'm sorry. We're looking at, what are we
So-
looking at tonight?
So, the applicant was asked at the
The
last
applicant on which
hearing.
project?
On
Shadow
Anthony
Ave.
Urban,
Okay.
the urban we're on right now.
Shadow.
He was asked at the last meeting to address the staff comments, update the drainage, add the buildable area table, and change some of the dates, and a few other minor changes to the notes, and he has done all of that. So he's back tonight looking for final approval with conditions.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Scott. Scott, can you give us a report from the Public Works side?
Yes, so.
It looks
we-
like page 6 of our staff report, there's some information, plan comments from.
Yeah, so, well,
DPW.
so last week I was on vacation, so Eric filled in for me, he covered reviewing this. So instead of sending my typical comment list, what he did was put a response. Or
Okay.
he checked their responses versus the plan, and found only number 5 was incomplete, so that was added to the conditions, he just needs a detail for his.
Riprap dimensions?
Yeah. The other thing, while I was away, we received draft drainage maintenance agreements, and there was back and forth to get those where the town wants them, and also the drainage easement we requested.
Right, and those are here.
Yeah, so that's the update from.
So the maintenance agreements are up to the DPW?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Eric had some back and forth, I believe with Attorney Sullivan, right?
Yeah.
And I reviewed them when I got back, and everything seems great.
All right,
Good
so
to go.
just check number 5 with some dimensions.
Yep, and that was added to the conditions.
It's
And-
13.
And if that is discussed tonight, can we have you approve that administratively if we get there tonight, and you'll
Yes.
take care of it?
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's an easy one.
Please, Scott, Phil?
Yeah, thank you. Scott, on the one that's got the blacked out.
So
the
that's
final-
actually highlighted. It looks blacked out here. It's supposed to be a yellow highlight. So those were changes, I believe, that Eric requested, and when Attorney Sullivan sent it back, he highlighted his changes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that,
If you hold it, you can read it.
Yeah, roof
well,
drip infiltration.
that's the reason, that was the purpose of my question.
Yeah.
If this was supposed to be blacked out.
yeah, it's not
if it was to be
redacted.
Eliminated, right, okay, all right.
CIA down there now. Okay, any board members have any questions for staff or Scott at this time? Barbara?
Didn't we have a discussion about placards being posted on
Yes,
the
we did.
boundary? Is that one of the conditions? Because I can't find it.
It may be associated with, where'd the conditions go? Number.
If they're shown on the plan, does it have to be a condition then?
Are they shown on the plan?
Yes.
Oh, they are?
It doesn't have to be,
It
no.
doesn't have to be a condition if they're shown on the plan.
All right, they're shown on the plan. I'm okay with it.
And
Anybody
then
else?
It is a note as well, note 21
Note 21.
On the plan.
on the plan.
On page sheet 2. Okay.
Everybody good with questions and answers from staff and DPW?
Scott, Scott, you looked at the declaration of covenants and granted easement, and did you have a chance to confirm that what it's describing as the easement area is the area that we wanted to restrict?
Yes, yeah, so there was actually even some back and forth there where I think the way it was worded, it was like the west side of the property instead of the east side at one point, so, yes.
Okay. I didn't have a chance to do that.
Joanne, are we all looking at the plan with the red binder on it? This is from last week, I believe, or last
Well,
meeting.
this was received at, it's 28th. This came in after the last
Did you
meeting.
say the 20th? Yeah, you've got an old one here, this one.
This one, I didn't-
Oh, you know what, in your packet right there.
Oh, it's
Yeah, see
underneath,
the
sorry.
red bind.
This is the old
Received
one.
February 28th.
This is the old one from last meeting. The other
Does
one's
it
down
say
here.
received?
But you've got a
February
half
28th?
size in that folder.
That's the one I
Oh,
have in my
okay.
phone.
Sorry, guys.
Can we have Craig just run us through quickly what,
Yeah, we'll get Craig up here. I want to make sure that you guys are all set before I ask them up to the table. So everybody's all set now, right? Craig, you're on. For the record.
For the record, okay. I can stay back there, I don't need to. I'm Craig Francisco with Bedford Design. Andy Sullivan had a conflict, so he couldn't make it tonight, so I'm flying solo. I really don't have anything to add, except I do have a sign.
Oh, a sample of the placarding?
Yes. Courtesy of Town Hall.
Everybody think they're big enough?
Plastic?
They look like targets to be shot.
I hope not.
Don't
better
give
than,
anybody ideas.
Metal.
Oh, no, plastic, or a piece of paper that was laminated.
Oh, come on.
Somebody
Well, no, I
actually
found that
did
with an applicant.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that New Boston property, I went out there to look at it.
Oh, really?
It was a piece of paper in plastic, in almost like a plastic bag, not even laminated.
it's designed to survive for multiple generations?
They've since been replaced.
Are the metal ones better than the plastic?
All right, let's get the show on the
Either-
road here,
either's
folks. So Craig, could you begin your presentation, please?
I really don't have much of a presentation after I read.
So they paid you to come here for nothing today?
I brought a sign.
Okay. All right,
Can you just walk through the plan changes, because we can't figure it.
Pardon me?
Well, there were, if I can just clarify, Mr. Chair, there weren't really plan changes. There were issues with the plan set, that things we wanted on them that we talked about that
Yes,
you
we
were
cha-
doing, right? Okay.
Yes.
It's been changed.
I've added note 16 that says an intent to cut shall be filed prior to construction. I added note 17 saying driveways are required, driveway permits are required. I added note 18 about roof drip infiltration trench. 19 saying the fuel truck, car, tires, mattresses, and other debris shall be removed prior to the issuance of a building permit. 20 saying all lots are subject to the WSWC setbacks, etc. And 21 saying wetland buffer placard shall be placed at 60-foot intervals. I added the vernal pool to the plans, almost every sheet, maybe every sheet, told everybody every sheet. Add the buildable area table to first 4 sheets. I added existing paved drive in front of the existing duplex for Scott.
could you show us on what plan the placards are shown? please. What plan, page number? Sheet of what?
2 of 10, start there.
Sheet 2.
You look at those sign symbols.
It's also on
Me
3
too.
of 10.
Yeah, they're right along with buffer.
Sheet 2 doesn't show the driveway.
Oh. What sheet shows has to be recorded, that's why I put it on sheet 2. If you go to sheet... Six, I guess is a good place to start. Seven.
Sheet 6,
Sheet 6 shows the detention bond and the driveway grading, et cetera.
and where are the placards? Where's the note for the placards on there? I want to see it.
Number 17.
No, where's it show them on the plan? Where,
Right
what's
here.
it?
Sign symbols here, here.
Yes, I see him.
There.
The legend does not include,
Yeah, it does.
does
Yeah,
it?
it's the
Yeah.
bottom.
Oh, I see it.
That's
Oh,
reflected.
wait.
Wetland mining, I guess.
Yes, yeah, mine does not.
On page,
See the old one too?
wetland placard.
Gotta look at sheet 2.
You said on sheet 6, Craig?
Yeah, sheet
Yes,
6.
it's on a bunch of sheets, on a whole bunch of sheets.
Well, where on sheet 6? 'Cause I don't see him, because the sheet is so tiny.
Bottom of the right
Wetland
column.
placard is that little,
It's a little hard to see.
oh, yeah.
And on other sheets, they're a little easier to see.
And they are what intervals?
60.
60?
Yes.
Is that what we asked for at the last meeting? Or we asked for
That's
50 at the
what-
last
that's
meeting?
what I was emailed something from Patty shortly after that meeting that said that another job, that's what they were required. 60 foot.
That's an odd number. I don't think I've ever seen 60.
That's really,
Well, I thought we said 50 at the meeting, that's why I'm
I
asking.
thought we did too.
well, let me look.
So why would Patty send him that email?
I think when we were discussing that at the previous meeting, Patty said she was going to look up the actual number.
What's the, do we
I
have it in
don't
our,
know.
it's not in our regulations, is it?
I don't believe it is.
No.
I think she found it off a different project.
It was actually an old project. He sent me because Steve Griffin was the one who signed off on it. It was quite a while ago.
Well, that was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm not, if we as a board stated 50-foot intervals, that's what it has to be. And you can amend your plan and give it back to them for administrative. Phil?
Yeah, just a comment, a question and a comment, I guess. As far as the placards, the wetland buffer placards, when you look up at the legend and you look at the shape of what they are, when you look here, you know, you're looking on the plan, and I'm looking at the large plan, not the little plan. They're very, very hard to see where they are. Could we have the number that there are someplace, so that if you're looking for them on the plan, you know how many you're looking for?
No. I know how many I bought. Does that help you any?
Well,
No,
just so
he wants to know on the plan, how many placards are gonna be for the driveway for lot 11-1.
because if I'm looking at the plan, I am never sure, I'm not sure how many there are by going and reading the plan. I mean, look at the shape of the placard. It's not a circle like these other symbols that you can look at and say, there's a symbol. You've got to really look, because they blend in with all these other lines that are in there. They're camouflage.
The
Maybe
symbol's
make
supposed to
them-
represent a post and a sign.
Yeah, maybe make them bigger though.
I can make them bigger.
Yeah, it is the normal sign symbol on a
That's-
construction set.
That is
set
the
of plans.
wetland placard.
Well,
official
a
sign?
sign, I don't know if a wetland
Oh, a sign,
placard
okay, a sign
has a.
symbol. All right, a sign symbol, right.
I'd request that Craig add
can
on
make 'em bigger.
sheet 2 oh no, I see it now. I missed it, I'm sorry.
Well, do board members concur that we want them at 50 feet?
Yes.
Yes. So Craig, you'll have to do an amended plan and submit it with the placard, because you're gonna do them bigger and easier to see, so that's when you can take care of that. All right, anybody else have any other questions? Barbara, you have your hand up?
No.
No.
Just for the
Jim?
benefit of the neighbors who may be here, Craig, are there any changes to this plan that affects the runoff or would have any impact on the abutting lots?
No. The only thing we changed drainage-wise was we changed the words, or letters CMP to HTP in the drainage. That was the only change we made.
Thank you.
So it was modeled correctly, it was
Yes.
just a typo?
Right. The model okay, just didn't.
I mean, if it was modeled incorrectly, you'd actually have a better result.
But just to confirm what I think Craig testified to last time, does this project cause any increase in runoff to the abutting lot?
No, that's a decrease. The only other thing was if there was anywhere near majors, we added a sheet 10 to the details. And we left out the revising details. We showed the various details needed.
Yep. No, you showed the buffer, the
I
wetland.
showed the sign, yes.
Okay. Board members, any other questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, I see we have some folks in the audience, so I'm going to open a public hearing.
My name's Greg Carroll. I object to the 50 feet relief. On lot 11.1, I agree, it's a long driveway, it is. But I think it would do some good, it'll clean up the area, the tires, the oil truck in the back, whatever's in there, mattresses, whoever knows. I mean, lot dot one, as soon as you come down the hill, it's already clear cut. I mean, so lot dot one, 11.1, okay. Do I want, is it zoned residential too? In my residential neighborhood, the duplex that's there now stands out a lot more than the 7 residential homes around it. So I'm very confused. I do not want renters in my neighborhood. I live in a residential neighborhood. I don't want any more renters. I mean, there's seven single-family homes around one rental. So for the lot 11, I mean, the 50 feet, I understand he needs it to get his driveway through. I understand also if he does get the relief of the outer 50 feet, it's just not on the driveway like Mr. Urban says it's for. I mean, it's for his whole property. It's the relief of the outer 50 feet on his whole property, which worries me. So on lot 13, I'm mixed about. I'm sorry, 11.1, I'm mixed about. It could be good, but it could also be bad. Lot 13 behind my house, I am sorry, I object. It's doing worse things to the wetlands than good. You're going across not one culvert, but you gotta make 2 culverts. One culvert is 35 feet long. The second culvert is 50 feet long. And then you also want 50 feet relief for the driveway. To me, that is a lot of stuff, a lot of damage, a lot of reworking for the wetlands just for a duplex, for or I don't even know. But even if the single family home back there, it would not be worth it. I'm sorry. And for the neighbors below that are afraid of the water and getting more water in my yard, not even my house, but my neighbor's house, or I know Mr. Urban has the duplex, but he could get more. What about the house that's down underneath the culvert of the driveway that's sitting down on the bottom, that big curve there? If a big rush of water comes down there, is that neighbor's gonna get water all in his driveway, all in his yard? Maybe. I am worried about Mr. Urban having an investor. That investor could back out anytime. And if it's clear cut in the back of my house on lot 13, are you going to guarantee me that that water is not going to come or damage any of the homes down below? I've been an electrician for 20 years. I've been doing construction, and I know that there's certain things that need to be done before construction can be done. Is that stuff going to be done? Is the water going to be rerouted during construction? If this thing stalls out and I get water in my yard or in my basement or my neighbors, who pays for it? I mean, I'm sorry. I just think lot 13 is just, we don't want it in our backyard. It's doing more damage than good, to be honest with you. Sorry. It's just that's how I feel.
Okay. Thanks for coming in. Could you give us your name, please, for the record?
Sure. I'm Vanessa Hincapie on 39 Chattel.
Could you say your last name again?
Hincapie, Hincapie.
It's right here on the map, if you want to spell it.
Got it, thank you. I remember it now from last time.
Yeah, it looks more tricky than it is. We've presented concerns about the wetlands, both myself in a letter and my neighbor, the Carrolls. And I really fail to see how these culverts are going to adequately maintain the wetlands, let alone improve them. We see these as an asset to our neighborhood and an asset to the wildlife that frequents the neighborhood. Further, the proposal for these two duplexes, I think it's reasonable to assume that there's going to be 2 vehicles per dwelling for a total of 8 vehicles added to the entering and exiting of the neighborhood. And for those of you, I don't think anyone here has been to this site. There was someone.
No, people haven't.
I met Mr. Carroll down in his driveway.
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad. I remember someone mentioning it at the last meeting that she visited, but I don't see her today. At any rate, the slope, the terrain of this area is such that there are many tiers that go down to the river. And we have very steep hills on Lynchville, which is a T intersection with Chattel. And then Chattel is a very steep road. And we have these 2 driveways that one, I believe it's lot 11, is about halfway down the hill on Chattel. And then lot 13 would be at the base. And it is very difficult to get up and down these hills in winter. We regularly see cars that have slid into our neighbors' yards or cannot get up the hill, period. So I have a very hard time seeing how safety can be maintained when we're going to add 8 more vehicles that need to enter and exit these driveways. As a regular walker, with 2 children and a third coming, that for me is a concern. I would also like to point out that this is a street that's filled with ranches, and we're adding 2 duplexes that do not coincide with the aesthetic and theme of this street. So this is another objection that I have. It would ruin the continuity of the neighborhood.
All right, y'all good?
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carlos, I know you speak authoritatively on the subject of wetlands. Could you please inform
Licensed or not.
both of our people who spoke at the public hearing here about permitting process for the wetlands and who issues permits for wetlands crossings?
DES does, Department of Environmental Services.
Just so you know, it's DES that issues all the wetlands crossing information. We don't make those decisions. They have to apply to the state for that, so.
The town can comment on the application that goes up to DES, and we make recommendations.
Just so you're aware that this board does not approve or deny wetlands permitting and crossing. It's all done at the state level. Okay, so I know both of you commented on that, and I just want to let you know where the authority is on that subject. Okay. All right, board members, do we have any other questions for the applicant? We have-
Mr. Chair, I have a question. The abutters commented on...
Oh, excuse me. May I interrupt you?
sorry.
I'd like to close the public hearing.
Okay, well, the abutters commented on there being a duplex built on this site, but this site, this subdivision does not specify what was going on the lots, if I'm correct. I don't know if Craig, the
They're
applicant
written
has
right
made
on
a
the plans.
representation on that.
They're on the plan.
As a duplex?
Yes, it
Yeah,
says
no, these are-
two-bedroom duplex.
That's what they're proposing.
The last thing he said, yeah, as an investor, we didn't know what he was building. That's what he told us last meeting.
They both say duplex on the plan now.
We know it's not residential homes. We know that.
So Jim,
No, I was just curious, I was asking if we've answered it, it's shown now.
It is shown on the plan.
Okay.
Do we have any unresolved issues, Joanne? No waivers to deal with, no conditional use permits, nothing like that? We're just doing a straight-up application?
Because we're just dealing with the...
No, there were no waivers. The functions and values report has already been reviewed. And like I said, there's a list of, excuse me, suggested conditions for the approval.
Mr. Chair, if I just say confirm with Joanne, this proposal is an allowed use under our zoning. The lot sizing is permitted by the zoning, and our zoning ordinance permits duplexes on lots of this size.
Yes.
And Scott, you have a signed drainage.
It's not signed, we have the draft. It's not signed yet, but it needs to be signed and recorded.
But it is to your satisfaction?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And it's still one of the conditions, because we want it signed and recorded. At least I believe it should still be one of the conditions. Yes, it's right here.
Craig, you have something to say?
I just wanted to point out that I didn't mean to specify a duplex. I was showing a duplex because it was the more dense use. I mean, I don't want to limit somebody to build a single-family house, is what I'm trying to say. I was showing a duplex because it has twice the traffic, twice everything.
So the zone allows a duplex,
Yes.
and you showed a duplex even though the applicant, the builder may decide to put a single-family home up
I don't
there.
know what the builder is going to build.
But the duplex is the maximum they're allowed to build?
Correct.
Okay. Board members, we have two outstanding issues. One is comment 5 from DPW, and do we concur that comment 5 can be addressed administratively with the riprap dimension aprons? And we also have another, that the placarding needs to be shown at 50 feet along the edge of the wetlands, and it needs to be on a revised plan. And can we allow Joanne to handle that administratively as well?
Yes.
Everybody agrees with that? Okay. So those are the only outstanding issues that came up at the meeting tonight. So Joanne, they don't need to be conditions, they can be handled administratively by you and Scott?
Correct, but there is a list of conditions
I
as
know
well. Yeah.
But it's a subdivision.
Yeah, still a subdivision.
Joanne, don't we have to make findings?
Yes.
And
Do you have any
proposed findings?
suggestions?
No, I just would probably use the typical that,
Well, I think it's fair, given the comments we've received from the abutters, to at least have our findings address their concerns or explain why we cannot necessarily act on all of them. For example, on the zoning constraints, what's allowed here.
Does the findings have to be part of the motion, or are they prior to any motion?
Well, part of our motion is to adopt the findings, and I think we should have them set out.
So can we do some findings, and I'll write them down on my sheet right here, and we'll have them written
Well,
in, so.
Joanne, what are your standards? They're not
so
up to the
typically,
report.
we say that the application meets the town requirements as far as the development regulations and the zoning ordinance. No waivers were needed.
The proposal includes a cleanup of the lot, which has been found to be an improvement by the Conservation Commission.
That's a finding?
I think I can,
Yeah.
because the
That's
cleanup
important.
is a condition.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
We're basing some of our actions on that.
And then all lots are subject to the wetland surface water conservation district setback requirements. And I think I would probably mention that all of the lots conform to the buildable area requirements.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think given the concerns about runoff, I think we should have a finding based on the applicant's presentation and Scott's review that the project is, according to the, what's the right term, according to the plan, but
Yeah, the applicant submitted a drainage analysis that shows
Yes.
post-development runoff will exceed pre-development.
correct.
And we are requiring drainage maintenance agreements, but in addition to that, all owners shall comply to the drainage.
Well, that's not a finding, that's a condition.
Okay.
Condition of the agreement.
What are the findings we're making?
So Barbara, regarding your finding of the cleanups, would you like to note that that was a Conservation Commission recommendation that was heard at the last meeting as a part of that finding?
Correct. Sure.
I think for purposes of discussion, we have to point out the Supreme Court has made it pretty clear that if a project complies with zoning, we're very limited on restricting the use. So, for example, here, zoning permits a duplex. It would be difficult for us to not allow it. Given the tenor of the court, I don't think we could do that, but we could under some circumstances, but not here. The first statement.
So Joanne, have you been writing down all the findings to include them in the motion?
Gail
I do talk
Gail
to the
has.
Chief Justice and the law coach.
So what do you have, Gail, can you read back the findings?
I said that.
Let's see. No waivers were needed. It meets the town requirements as far as the development regs and zoning ordinance.
Right.
No waivers were needed. The proposal includes a cleanup of the lot, which was recommended by the Conservation Commission.
I got that.
And it's found to be an improvement. All lots are subject to the Wetland Surface Water Conservation District setback requirements. All lots conform to the buildable area requirements.
I got that one.
Based on the applicant's presentation and Scott's review, the applicant submitted an analysis that the post-development runoff is better than the pre-development. And then, well.
Is it, why don't you say it is an improvement?
Will not exceed.
Oh, okay.
That's the standard.
Yeah.
Is it less, or is it just?
It's a
less?
decrease.
I would like it to say less, because I have an issue with these projects and the water calculations, because I think most of them are
Okay,
bogus.
so it will be less.
Living on a hill. Where much calculations has been done.
So all objects lots are subject to the wetland setbacks and the post-development runoff is less than the pre-development calculation. Is that all the findings?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 findings?
Yeah, and then Jim added as a comment, I don't know that it's a finding.
No, that's more of a comment.
Comment,
I just-
yeah.
I-
So we have
I-
6,
no.
so we have 6 findings. All right. And Gail has them in the record, so they are accessible for motion purposes.
It would be helpful, Joanne, if you gave us the proposed findings, at least.
Yeah, I have to remember to do that.
I know it's changing all over.
Only because we're going to go to court if we don't do our findings.
You had them for the last
I
report. They
know,
were in
and
for the
then-
last report, but not for this one.
Bill?
What about the, no conditional use permit is required, is that, important or not?
Well, if they meet,
I'm just bringing it up.
if they meet, I wrote down that they meet all the
Okay.
zoning and development regulations, and you wouldn't need a conditional use permit for
Well,
any.
I didn't know if we needed specifically cited, that's
No,
all
I would say.
I'm asking.
Well, we could add that there's no waivers or conditional use permits required.
Then that means they don't meet the development and zoning regs. That's why you need a conditional use permit, right?
Well,
Certain
conditional use
things-
permit is permitted by conditional use, so I wouldn't use your words. But
So no waivers or conditional use permits.
Depending on the use, some things always require the conditional use permit.
All right, any more discussion on this application? Any more questions for the applicant? We going home tonight? We staying here till midnight?
I was waiting for you to look up so we could go to the next action, which would be a motion. Are you
Already
writing
wrote-
that?
I'm writing down here something. Go ahead.
Okay, I move that we approve the application with the findings that we, based on the findings we already outlined, with the conditions listed on page 7 and 8 with a few modifications, including on number 1, since there were no waivers or conditional use permits, we should take out, including instead of a note on the board's final, that's, I guess you can say that's a note on the plan.
It's a note, and it's-
Okay,
yeah.
okay, I suppose.
Yeah. We're adding a placard one.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the wording.
So do you want that removed from condition 1, Jim?
No, it's
No.
okay, because it's, I thought it was not just a note
It
on the
was a
plan.
specific.
Yeah.
But we're not adding a placard condition.
Oh, no, here's my big comment. On number 10, best management practices are to be followed. It should be the preposition to, not the number to, during construction. And 2 measures, which is a number, so.
Two is TO.
The first 2 should be TO, and the second 2 should be, I think, TWO.
Well,
And the, yeah, and the notation that the placards marking the, what are we calling that? The wooded
Wetlands
buffer area
WSWC.
will be at 50-foot intervals.
I'll second it with the note that in competition of editing over here, that number 6 shall is not spelled correctly either.
But I just wanted to emphasize the point, we'll put an extra L on it.
Because I had the 2 circled also.
Yeah, but I said.
So what did you just do, Barbara? I was writing something.
Nothing, it was a typo, don't worry.
Okay. All right, so
We're dealing with 2s and 3s.
Jim has a motion to approve with conditions and findings. Did I hear a second?
I will second it.
Barbara, you just a potted plant. She already, Barbara
I talked
already.
about the conservation, I
She-
seconded the motion.
Yeah, Barbara already seconded, but with
You
her,
did second it, Barbara?
with
I
her,
didn't, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
with her snitty little spelling
So
correction.
I have Collis as the second.
That's what I have.
Who do you have?
Call us. I didn't hear Barbara second it.
I didn't hear anything. Usually I do. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. Not yet. We don't have any other business to go before we go on.
Did you correct the minutes?
I know you will.
I don't know what the issue was.
Does anyone have any other business this evening?
That was just
If
passed.
none, motion to adjourn.
And the laundromat.
Any-
That was in-
Does anyone else have any business for this board tonight? First and last chance. All right, Phil has a motion to adjourn.
Awesome.
Seconded by Gail. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you, GTV.